BMW calls this the M4 competition with M xDrive, but I'm just going to go with M4x4, because for the first time, BMW has made the M4 and the M3 available with four-wheel drive.
But shouldn't the M3 and the M4 be rear-wheel drive? Isn't that sort of the point of these cars? It's been that way for as long as the M3 has been around, 35 years. So why change it now?
Remember to head over to pistonheads.com after watching this video to research and buy your next car. The four-wheel drive system is heavily rear biased. It uses an electronically controlled multi-plate clutch in the transfer case to split torque front to rear, only sending any drive forwards when the rear axle is about to lose traction.
I had a previous generation M4. I ran one as my everyday car for 6 months or so, and I liked it. I liked it despite the fact that 3 or 4 times it tried to kill me. It definitely did try to kill me. Particularly in winter, on a wet, cold road with cold tyres, that thing was a bit of a liability. It just didn't really have very much traction. You put your foot down, even just a little bit, you get a whole load of turbo boost, the rear axle would break traction, and the car would get all lively on you. And so, having lived with that car through a cold winter, I understand why four-wheel drive might be a good idea. And now that I've driven this four-wheel drive M4, I'm totally sold, I have to say. I think it's a really very good idea indeed, particularly because of how brilliant and how subtle this four-wheel drive system is. So in normal driving, it just favours the rear axle, and only when the rear axle is about to break traction does it tickle the front axle by sending just a little bit of drive that way, which pulls the car straight and just stops you from having a horrible crash. It's really clever. Most of the time I don't feel like I'm driving a four-wheel drive car at all, but just when you need it, it gives you that extra support, just a little bit of added stability. These cars have got so much power now that having more traction has got to be a good thing, particularly given that you can turn the four-wheel drive system off and make this a rear-wheel drive M4 again.
Simply turn the stability control off, engage two-wheel drive mode, and bonfire those rear tyres. The four-wheel drive system means this M4 is 50 kilograms heavier than the basic one, which is already very heavy. With me on board, this one weighs 1,850 kilograms. That's dangerously close to 2 tons. It costs £78,315, just over £2,000 more than the rear drive car.
I want to talk about the chassis on this car. As we know, it's not a light thing. And so to combat that weight, they've had to give it quite a lot of spring rate. So this is a stiff car. You feel it the instant you set off. It's not unbearably crashy at all. I think at low speed around town on bumpy roads, the ride might start to irritate you. But once you get up to speed, it's so nicely damped that actually it feels pretty good. On the motorway, it's fine. On most A roads, above 50 miles an hour or so, it's fine. And the good thing about having quite firm springs is that you get excellent body control and really good agility. This car is clamped down to the road. Body control is supreme. It just doesn't go light over crests. It doesn't scrape its belly through compressions. It barely rolls in corners. I think it feels fantastic actually. My old M4 had a real issue with body control, and that combined with not having much traction was what made it quite a scary car to drive in certain conditions. This one, with more traction, with much better body control, is a much less frightening thing to drive.
The M4's steering is super accurate. That makes positioning the car precisely where you want it very easy, although the rim doesn't exactly chatter away on your fingertips. Importantly though, when you turn into a bend, you do sense through the seat and the wheel how much grip you have to lean on.
Talking of grip, this particular car is on Michelin Cup 2 tyres, super aggressive, basically track-focused tyres. Tons and tons of grip and traction in the dry on a warm road, but today it hasn't really been raining, but the roads have been wet all day and it's been very cold. And so at times it's felt skittish. It's felt quite nervous. Thank God it's got four-wheel drive. If this was my car, I'd just have the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, which is one rung down from the Cup 2, but it's got as much grip as you could ever need on the road, and it's much more usable when it's cold, when it's wet as well. The M Dynamic mode, which is the sort of halfway house setting for the stability control system, is genius. You stick it in MDM, and then the car is really playful. You can actually make the car slide a little bit as if it's a rear-wheel drive car in that mode. I think MDM in this car is super clever.
Still, it is very fast. With 510 horsepower from its twin-turbo 3-litre straight six, it romps along. This four-wheel drive model hits 62 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds, almost half a second quicker than the rear drive car.
Yeah, it flies along. This isn't one of those turbo engines that barely feels turbocharged at all. Something like a 911 Carrera engine or a Ferrari V8, a twin-turbo V8, they just don't feel turbocharged, those engines. You've got instant throttle response and really linear power delivery. This BMW engine isn't quite like that. It feels boosty, it feels turbocharged. It does its best work sort of beyond 4,000 RPM. And it's not instantaneously responsive. You put your foot down, wait half a beat, and then you feel the surge of acceleration. Most of the time I don't miss having a twin clutch gearbox because this auto is actually very good. But it's the slightly laboured gear shifts right up at the red line that let you know it's not a twin clutch. The really clever thing about this car is that through a long, dark, cold winter, you could still enjoy it. Drive it the way that you would in the summer, and it wouldn't frighten the life out of you. It wouldn't make you want to just put the traction control back on and settle into a cruise. In this car, you could hammer it year round.
And that's why, for those of us who live in cold, wet countries like the UK, a four-wheel drive M4 makes so much sense. I can't see any downsides. So yeah, please make my M4 an M4x4. Thank you for watching this PistonHeads video. Remember to comment below to tell us which M4 you'd have, and hit the subscribe button so you never miss another one of our videos.